The Sheep Pig by Dick King-Smith, read by Elise and Ben Wilmore. Chapter 1. Guess my weight. What's that noise?
Said Mrs. Hoggett, sticking her comfortable round red face out of the kitchen window. Listen, there 'tis again. Did you hear it? What a racket! What a row! Anybody'd think someone was being murdered. Oh, dearie me! Whatever is it? Just listen to it, will you? Farmer Hoggett listened. From the usually quiet valley below the farm came a medley of sounds, the oompa-oompa of a brass band, the shouts of children, the rattle and thump of a skittle alley, and every now and then a very high, very loud, very angry-sounding squealing lasting perhaps 10 seconds. Farmer Hoggett pulled out an old pocket watch as big as a round saucer and looked at it. Fair starts at 2, he says.
It's started.
I knows that, said Mrs. Hoggett, because I'm late now with all the dessert cakes and jams and pickles and preserves as is meant to be on the produce stall this very minute. And who's going to take them there, I'd like to know? Why, you are, but afore you does, what's that noise? The squealing sounded again.
That noise.
Mrs. Higgett nodded a great many times. Everything that she did was done at great length, whether it was speaking or simply nodding her head. Farmer Hoggett, on the other hand, never wasted his energies or his words. Pig, he said. Mrs. Hoggett nodded a lot more. I thought 'twas a pig. I said to myself, that's a pig, that is. Only nobody round here do keep pigs. 'Tis all sheep for miles about. What's a pig doing? I said to myself. Anybody'd think they was killing the poor thing. Have a look when you take all this stuff down, which you better do now. Come give us a hand. It can go in the back of the Land Rover. It isn't raining. 'Twon't hurt. Wipe your boots before you comes in. Yes, said Farmer Hoggett. When he'd driven down to the village and made his delivery to the produce store, Farmer Hoggett walked across the green, past the hoopla stall and the coconut shy, and the Aunt Sally and the skittles and the band, to the source of the squealing noise which came every now and again from a small pen of hurdles in a far corner against the churchyard wall. By the pen sat the vicar, notebook in hand, a cardboard box on the table in front of him. On the hurdles hung a notice.
Guess my weight 10 pence ago.
Inside was a little pig. As Farmer Hoggett watched, a man leaned over and picked it out of the pen. He hefted it in both hands, frowning and pursing his lips in a considering way, while all the time the piglet struggled madly and yelled blue murder. The moment it was put down, it quietened. Its eyes, bright, intelligent eyes, met the farmer's. They regarded one another. One saw a thin, brown-faced man with very long legs, and the other saw a small, fat, pinky-white animal with very short ones.
Ah, come along, Mr. Hoggett,
said the vicar. You never know, he could be yours for 10 pence. Guess his weight correctly, and at the end of the day you could be taking him home. Don't keep pigs, said Farmer Hoggett. He stretched out a long arm and scratched its back. Gently he picked it up and held it before his face. It stayed quite still and made no sound. That's funny, said the vicar. Every time so far that someone's picked him up, he's screamed his head off. He seems to like you. You'll have to have a guess. Carefully Farmer Hoggett put the piglet back into the pen. Carefully he took a 10-pence piece from his pocket and dropped it in the cardboard box. Carefully he ran one finger down the list of guesses already in the vicar's notebook. Quite a variation, said the vicar. Anything from £20 to 40 so far. He wrote down Mr. Hoggett and waited, pencil poised. Once again, slowly, thoughtfully, the farmer picked the piglet up. Once again it remained still and silent.
31 pounds,
said Farmer Hoggett. He put the little pig down again. And a quarter, he said. 31 and a quarter pounds. Thank you, Mr. Hoggett. We shall be weighing the little chap at about 4:30. Be gone by then. Oh, well, we can always telephone you, if you should be lucky enough to win him. Never win nothing. As he walked back across the green, the sound of the pig's yelling rang out as someone else had a go. You do never win nothing, said Mrs. Hoggett at tea-time, when her husband in a very few words had explained matters, though I've often thought I'd like a pig. We could feed him on scraps. He'd come right just for Christmas time. Just think, 2 nice hams, 2 sides of bacon, pork chops, kidneys, liver, chitling, trotters, save his blood for back pudding. There's the phone. Farmer Hoggett picked it up. Oh, he said.
Chapter 2. There, is that nice?
In the farmyard, Fly, the black and white collie, was beginning the training of her 4 puppies. For some time now, They'd shown an instinctive interest in anything that moves, driving it away or bringing it back, turning it to left or right, in fact, herding it. They'd begun with such things as passing beetles, but they were now ready, Fly considered, for larger creatures. She set them to work on Mrs. Hoggett's ducks. Already the puppies were beginning to move, as sheepdogs do, seeming to creep rather than walk, heads held low, ears pricked, eyes fixed on the angrily quacking birds as they manoeuvred them about the yard.
"Good boys,"
said Fly. "Leave them now. Here comes the boss." The ducks went grumbling off to the pond, and the 5 dogs watched as Farmer Hoggett got out of the Land Rover. He lifted something out of a crate in the back and carried it to the stables. "What was that, Mum?" said one of the puppies. "That was a pig." "What will the boss do with it?" "Eat it," said Fly, "when it's big enough." "Will he eat us?" said a rather nervous puppy, "when we're big enough?" "Bless you," said his mother, "people only eat stupid animals, like sheep and cows and ducks and chickens. They don't eat clever ones, like dogs." "So pigs are stupid," said the puppies. Fly hesitated. On the one hand, having been brought up in sheep country, she had in fact never been personally acquainted with a pig. On the other, like most mothers, she did not wish to appear ignorant before her children.
"Yes,"
She said.
"they're stupid."
At this point there came from the kitchen window a long burst of words like the rattle of a machine gun, answered by a single shot from the stables, and Farmer Hoggett emerged and crossed the yard towards the farmhouse with his loping stride. "Come on," said the collie bitch, "I'll show you." The floor of the stables had not rung to a horse's hoof for many years, but it was a useful place for storing things. The hens foraged about there, and sometimes lay their eggs in the old wooden mangers. The swallows built their nest against its roof beams with mud from the duck pond, and rats and mice lived happy lives in its shelter until the farm cats cut them short. At one end of the stables were 2 loose boxes with boarded sides, topped by iron rails. One served as a kennel for Fly and her puppies, the other sometimes housed 6 sheep. Here Farmer Hoggett had shut the piglet. A convenient sack of straw bales allowed the dogs to look down into the box through the bars.
"It certainly looks stupid,"
said one of the puppies, yawning. At the sound of the words, the piglet glanced up quickly. He put his head on one side and regarded the dogs with sharp eyes. Something about the sight of this very small animal standing all by itself in the middle of the roomy loose box touched Fly's soft heart. Already she was sorry that she'd said that pigs were stupid, for this one certainly did not appear to be so. Also, there was something dignified about the way it stood its ground in a strange place, confronted with strange animals. How different from the silly sheep, who at the mere sight of a dog would run aimlessly about crying, "Wolf, wolf!" in their empty-headed way. "Hello," she said. "Who are you?"
"I'm a large white,"
said the piglet. "Blimey," said one of the puppies, "if that's a large white, what's a small one like?" And they all 4 sniggered. "Be quiet," snapped Fly. "Just remember that 5 minutes ago you didn't even know what a pig was." And to the piglet she said kindly, "I expect that's your breed, dear. I meant, what's your name?" "I don't know," said the piglet. "Well, what did your mother call you to tell you apart from your brothers and sisters?" she said. And then wished she hadn't, for at the mention of his family the piglet began to look distinctly unhappy. His little forehead wrinkled, and he gulped, and his voice trembled as he answered, "She called us all the same." "And what was that, dear?"
"Babe,"
said the piglet, and the puppies began to giggle until their mother silenced them with a growl. "But that's a lovely name," she said. "Would you like us to call you that? It'll make you feel more at home." At this last word the pig's face fell even further. "I want my mum," he said very quietly. And at that instant the collie bitch made up her mind that she would foster this unhappy child. "Go out into the yard and play," she said to the puppies, and she climbed to the top of the straw stack and jumped over the rail and down into the loose box beside the piglet. "Listen, babe," she said, "you've got to be a brave boy. Everyone has to leave their mother. It's part of growing up. I did so when I was your age, and my puppies will have to leave me quite soon. But I'll look after you if you like." Then she licked his little snout with a warm rough tongue, her plumed tail wagging. "There," she said. "Is that nice?" she said. A little while later, Farmer Hoggett came into the stables with his wife to show her his prize. They looked over the loose box door and saw, to their astonishment, Fly curled around the piglet. Exhausted by the drama of the day, he lay fast asleep against his new-found foster parent. "Well, will you look at that?" said Mrs. Hoggett. "That old Fly shall mother anything. Kittens, ducklings, baby chicks. She's looked after all of them. Now it is a pig. Isn't he lovely? What a picture. Good job he doesn't know where I'll finish up, but he'll be big by then and we'll be glad to see the back of him. Or the hams of him, I should say. Shan't us? Wonder how I shall get it all in the freezer. Pity, really, said Farmer Hoggett absently. Mrs. Hoggett went back into her kitchen, shaking her head all the way across the yard at the thought of her husband's soft-heartedness. The farmer opened the loose box door, and to save the effort of a word, clicked his fingers to call the bitch out. As soon as Fly moved, the piglet woke and followed her, sticking so close to her that his snout touched her tail tip. Surprise forced Farmer Hoggett into speech.
Fly,
he said in amazement. Obediently as always, the collie bitch turned and trotted back to him. The pig trotted behind her.
sit.
Said Farmer Hoggett. Fly sat. Babe sat. Farmer Hoggett scratched his head. He could not think of anything to say.